Hi, my name is Bandana Tewari. I am Nepalese by birth. I lived in India, and right now I live in Bali, Indonesia. I worked for 13 years in Vogue India, and when I moved to Bali, because of all the nature around us, I moved into activism with sustainable fashion. And perhaps this is the reason why I'm so thankful to a Berlin Fashion Summit for inviting me to speak, because I do live in a jungle on my own. And to be invited to such a huge forum and platform, I feel grateful and eternally thankful. So, the topic that has been given to me to talk about is very, very close to my heart. I'm going to speak from my heart. It is the future. The future needs compassion. And of course, I'm going to talk about it from the lens of the industry that we all belong to, which is fashion. But at the same time, I think this talk about sustainability that's been happening all over the world, especially because of COVID, I think has made us realize that sustainability is not just about tropes, that you can do only this, or that you only care for the whales, or you only care about not buying too many t-shirts, or whatever. It is about a sustainable way of living. Are you a sustainable human being? And to put this into context, there is an anecdote by one of my favorite Buddhist monks. He's Vietnamese, and Dr. Martin Luther King, in fact, nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. And he would do this exercise with people who would come to listen to him, and would give them a piece of white paper, like an A4 size white paper, empty, and say, stare into that white paper. And if you are poetic, you will see there are clouds in it. And then when you see the clouds, you know that there is rain. But if there were no rain, there'd be no forests. If there are no forests, there wouldn't be any trees. If there were no trees, there's no lumberjacks cutting the trees, and then there would be no paper. So all your answers are in this white piece of paper. For me, that is the kind of interconnectivity that brings sustainability into my heart and my soul and my mind. So it is not divided into what do I do about sustainability in this or that part of my life. It is about understanding that we need to be compassionate human beings, to be creators and to be consumers. So I think what I learned in my 13 years of being in high fashion, in Vogue, and having the best time of my life, and then moving to Bali, where there is jungle and sand and seas, and we live with insects without being fearful of snakes and wasps and what have you. I think what I realized is that we somehow, as producers, creators and consumers of fashion, we started this alienation of products from people. We started thinking of beautiful things just for the sake of beauty, and forgot what it takes for that thing of beauty to be created. And so, when I started doing my research, and I go a lot into Mahatma Gandhi's principles about coexisting with nature, with the environment, with other human beings, I think one of my biggest realizations within the fashion industry was, please, yes, the product is beautiful. There's no doubt about that. But before product, you have to understand there's a process that we need to value, that we need to honor, because that process means, especially in the fashion world, where the supply chain is so wide and so diverse all over the place, it's so globalized, there are too many invisible faces in our industry. So we forget that the process is also very important. But again, with process comes, who are these people? Are we going to just forget factory workers in Bangladesh and Vietnam and Cambodia, what have you? Are we going to forget the artisans in Mexico and India? There are people who make beautiful things, beautiful products. So there's products, there's process, there's people, the most important right now, because of COVID, when we are very careful about how we spend our money, I think it's extremely important to be a compassionate, conscious consumer. You have to find a purpose why you're spending your hard-earned money. When you pull out your wallet and spend your money, what is the purpose? Is it just for more and more? Bigger is better? Or are you going to support an industry that needs your support? Are you going to fuel that industry because it needs the fueling, because it is your love for good things and the value for things that is going to harness a huge industry like ours? So for me, these 4 Ps, products, people, process, purpose, is very important. The other thing I realized during COVID is that we are all now stuck in our homes, our hometowns, certain countries. It doesn't matter. Boundaries, weirdly enough, is physical, right? So now for creators and designers and consumers, we've got to rely on our own backyard for inspiration, for production, because the whole supply chain has been dismantled, because now I can't afford to buy. Oh, there is no shirt that I can buy right now where the cotton comes from India, the buttons come from China, the embroidery is done in Bangladesh. That whole system is dysfunctional right now. So then what are we going to value? So this idea of cultural sustainability is at the forefront of this discourse on how are we going to be good consumers of tomorrow. And I think COVID teaches us that we've lived too long in a world that was so homogenized, that was so almost banal in the way we made everything look the same no matter where you were, whether you were in Tokyo or Bombay or Jakarta or Berlin, it didn't matter. We had forgotten there's value in difference. There is value in our cultural provenance, which is so different from someone in another continent, another country, and we should value that. So I think cultural sustainability brings in great ideas of how much we need to value where we come from, what our heritage is, celebrate the difference, as opposed to saying we are all the same. No, we are not. We're human beings. Yes, our humanity should be the same. That's compassionate. But as consumers and where we live, please, we need to be as local as possible in supporting our designers, our talents, our crafts. And so I think we need to understand, what does it mean then to participate compassionately in somebody else's culture? How do you not make all the boo-boos all these big fashion brands are making by dipping from old heritage cultures and not giving them credit or, even acknowledging? So, there's a wonderful platform called Cultural Intellectual Property Rights. I'm an advisor. My friend is the founder. And she laid out 3 very simple rules when we want to participate in other people's cultures, because we will be doing that now, because we now have to dip into our own cultures and spread the message, right? So the first is consent. If you're going to participate in someone's culture, A, as a designer, you need consent, permission. B, credit. Please say, this is where it comes from. That is the legacy. That is the history. That is the symbolism. That is identity. And number 3, of course, is compensation. That you just can't profit from other people's cultures and their heritage without giving back to the very community where you have profited from. And this has happened with lots of fashion brands across the board before COVID. And I think this is a great, great reminder that we can't be so silly and ignorant. We have a wonderful term in Sanskrit, which is a very ancient language, and it's called tamas. Tamas means ignorance, the kind of ignorance that brings us to our knees. And so we do not need that ignorance anymore. And when we get out of this COVID, moment, who are we going to be? Are we going to be better versions of ourselves? I think we need to. I think this is an opportunity. So, I'm a bit of a geek and I love science and I love spirituality. I live in Bali, so it's very easy for me to talk about compassion and sustainability in a very similar language, that you can't possibly be a sustainable human being and not be compassionate. Because fundamentally, if you care about the environment and if you care about the people, then can that not be a spiritual act? I mean, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about a very secular way of looking at sustainability. If you are a compassionate human being and your acts as a creative person, as a designer, as a consumer, as a manufacturer shows the compassion to the environment and the people, how is that not a spiritual act? And we should celebrate that. And there's a wonderful theory that came out in the 1940s, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He was a psychologist, sociologist, and he created a pyramid of the needs of human beings. And on the bottom is all your sort of the physiological needs. You've got enough to eat, you've got a roof over your head. Then it goes up and talks about psychological needs, like your need for affirmation, your esteem, your pride. And then as the pyramid goes up, he talks about self-actualization, which basically means that when you've been given all the privileges that make you healthy, that keep you healthy, and you're provided for, then what else should you do? You need to be a better version of yourself. That is the idea of self-actualization. And later in life, he even moved further up in the pyramid and talked about self-transcendence, that we to talk in terms of almost like our grandmothers did, the spirit of the universe, that we are energy. And today's scientists will tell you and quantum mechanics is, I love that so much because it just tells you at a molecular level and at a cosmic level, we are all interconnected. So, compassion is a way of life. It shouldn't just be about one thing that you do in your life. It should be a choice in everyday things that you choose, not just what you wear.